Right now, think back to a moment in your life when something completely ordinary suddenly felt like it had already happened before. Strange, right? Not a memory, not something you could place. Just a sudden, overwhelming certainty that you had lived this exact second before. The room, the conversation, the way the light was falling. All of it felt familiar, even though you knew, deep down, it couldn't be. Wait, how is that even possible? That feeling has a name, déjà vu. And here's the part that should really bother you. Despite how common it is, despite how almost everyone on the planet has felt it at least once, science still doesn't have one single agreed-upon answer for why it happens. What we do have are a few competing theories, and every single one of them says something a little unsettling about how fragile your sense of right now really is. So let's actually sit with that for a second. Déjà vu is French for already seen. Somewhere between 60 and 70% of people experience it at some point. It tends to peak in your teenage years and 20s, then quietly fades as you get older. It usually lasts only a few seconds, but almost every time, it comes with a strange little contradiction built right into it. You feel certain you've experienced this moment before, but you also know, at the exact same time, that you haven't. Two conflicting beliefs, both fully convinced they're right, sitting inside your head at once. Doesn't that feel almost impossible? So what's actually going on in there? One theory involves a tiny structural delay. Your brain processes information from your senses through multiple pathways, working just slightly out of sync with each other. Normally, they line up so precisely you never even notice. But every once in a while, one pathway fires a fraction of a moment before the other. And here's the unsettling part. If one part of your brain registers a scene just slightly before the rest of your brain catches up, that second, delayed signal can get mistakenly tagged as a memory of something that already happened. Not because it did. Because your brain briefly processed the same moment twice and mistook the repeat for recall. Kind of unsettling, isn't it? Your own timing. Quietly glitching for less than a second. Here's a second theory, and it comes from a completely different angle. Inside your brain sits a small structure that acts almost like a librarian for memory, deciding what counts as new and what counts as something you've already filed away. Sometimes that librarian misfires. It flags a brand new experience and stamps it incorrectly as familiar. So your brain goes looking for a matching memory to justify that feeling. It doesn't find one, because there isn't one. But the feeling doesn't go away just because the search came up empty. So you're left holding a feeling with no evidence behind it. Familiar, but unfindable. That gap right there, between the feeling and the missing memory, that's déjà vu. There's a third explanation, and honestly, this one's oddly comforting. Some researchers call it gestalt familiarity. The idea is, you don't need to have seen an exact scene before to feel like you have. You only need to have seen something structurally similar. Picture a coffee shop you've never set foot in, but the counter is positioned the same way as one you visited years ago. The lighting falls the same way. The tables echo a cafe from your childhood. You never consciously notice any of it, but your brain does. And that quiet pattern match alone can be enough to trigger a full wave of familiarity, even in a place you've truly never been. So maybe déjà vu isn't a glitch at all. Maybe it's just your brain doing exactly its job, a little too enthusiastically. Now here's where it gets stranger. Stay with me. Déjà vu isn't only something healthy brains stumble into randomly. In some people with a specific form of epilepsy, déjà vu can appear right before a seizure, almost like a warning signal. For these people, it isn't fleeting or subtle at all. It can be intense, prolonged, genuinely disturbing, arriving seconds before a seizure takes hold. And studying these cases gave researchers something incredibly rare. A chance to actually watch, in real time, which exact region of the brain lights up the moment déjà vu strikes. It consistently points to a small area deep inside the brain, tied directly to memory formation itself. Which means, whatever this feeling actually is, it isn't random noise. It's coming straight from the machinery that decides what counts as a memory in the first place. There's also a stranger, rarer cousin of déjà vu worth knowing about. It's called Jamais vu. Instead of something new feeling impossibly familiar, something completely familiar suddenly feels impossibly foreign. Imagine staring at a word you've written 1,000 times and suddenly, for a few seconds, it looks like complete nonsense. Like you've genuinely never seen that combination of letters before. Or looking at your own front door, in your own home, and briefly, it just not recognizing it. That's a deeply strange feeling to sit with, isn't it? If déjà vu is your brain mistakenly labeling something new as old, jamais vu might be the exact opposite mistake, your brain stripping the familiar label off something you've known your whole life. And both point to the same uncomfortable conclusion. The feeling of familiarity was never directly connected to what actually happened to you. It's a separate signal, one your brain generates, one that can misfire completely on its own, which means this feels familiar was never solid ground to stand on. It was always just a guess your brain hands you, usually right, but not always. Think about how much of your life quietly rests on that one feeling. You trust it when you spot a friend's face in a crowd. You trust it when a certain smell pulls you straight back to your childhood kitchen. You trust it every time you feel sure you know a place, a person, a moment. And most of the time, that trust is completely earned. But déjà vu is proof the system can misfire. That "I've experienced this before" can appear out of nowhere, fully formed, completely convincing, and entirely disconnected from anything real. For a few seconds, your brain hands you a memory that was never actually made, and you believe it completely, right up until it fades. So the next time it happens to you, that sudden, eerie certainty that this exact moment already occurred. Pause for a second. Notice how convincing it feels. Notice how hard it is to shake, even once you know, logically, it can't be true. Because that feeling isn't proof of anything you lived before. It's a small, quiet reminder that "I know this" and actually knowing it are two completely separate things happening inside your head. And your brain, most of the time without you ever noticing, is the one deciding which one to hand you.